So peptides, it's a lot like saying automobiles, right? Just like you have a ton of different cars that are out there, you have a bunch of different peptides. And just like you have different classes of automobiles, whether it's a truck, an SUV, a sports car, same thing with peptides. You have peptides that do all different things. Consider that there's a peptide for pretty much anything. There's a peptide to help you grow hair. There's a peptide to help make you more tan. There's a peptide to help add more muscle. There's a peptide to help make you thin. Probably the most popular worldwide known peptide that there is you had mentioned Ozempic, semaglutide, or Wegovy, or tirzepatide. Like you have all these different, that's probably the most popular ones that are there. Consider this, all a peptide really does is it's a protein that turns on a switch in your body. And then when it turns on that switch, you have an effect that occurs. So take semaglutide, for example. When someone injects semaglutide, which, there's pros and cons to all these things, but when someone injects semaglutide once a week, then that is turning on a switch that slows down the peristaltic function, the actual squeezing function of the stomach and everything. And because of that, it helps someone feel more full. The other thing that it does is it helps to unhinge the reward system that we have when we eat. So if we go back to caveman times, if you eat fat or you carbohydrate, you get a little boost of energy. So for example, you get some berries off a bush if you were a caveman, or you chase down the bunny rabbit, smack it on the head, cook it up, get a little bit of fat. That was a reward, so that way you would know to do more of that, because that had more calories to sustain energy for a longer period of time. So you can make progeny and make more people, right? Well, that's worked against us in this day and age where we have, Instacart and Grubhub and things like that. Now it's just all too easy to get those calories. So semaglutide, what it does is it unhinges that reward center. So folks who've taken it, they'll tell you, you'll ask them, are you hungry? No. You'll offer them like a cupcake or something. They're like, I'm fine. There's like no association to food anymore. Food becomes fuel instead.
And this is in regards to Ozempic.
Yeah, that's why it's worked so well in terms of like weight loss, because you don't have to really practice craving control anymore. You really don't have it. And for that reason, it's easier to lose weight. And then you add the fact that food hangs around longer in the stomach, you feel fuller for long. So that's how powerful peptides can be. They're not a willy-nilly thing. There's a lot of folks on social media that they say, well, it's just a protein, can't hurt you. Not true. Anyone who's taken too much semaglutide or has taken semaglutide and said, well, now I can eat whatever I want. They try cramming down 4 pieces of pizza and spend the next 2 days throwing up. We'll tell you, peptides can be very, very powerful in both, pros and cons. One of the ones that I don't recommend for people at all is melanotan. Melanotan is a very popular one, particularly with bodybuilders. Why? Because it helps to shed body fat and it helps to make you more tan, which sounds great. I love being tan, especially without sun exposure, aging your skin. That sounds great. But what it does is it upregulates the number of melanocytes in our skin. Melanocytes are what's within our cells that actually make you tan when you go out in sunlight. The problem is if it upregulates those, God forbid, someone who's prone to a melanoma, which is one of the most devastating cancers that there is, it could increase chance of that melanoma. Can anyone say with 100% certainty? No, because that would be completely unethical to just give people melanotan and see who develops a melanoma. But at some point or another, you have to use some common sense. One of the main things that peptides do is all of us are trying to pump the brakes on aging. And so one of the main things that a lot of peptides do is they increase GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. And the gonadotropin releasing hormone is the precursor to growth hormone. Think of it like the light switch that you turn on when you walk in a room. It'll help to stimulate some growth hormone. But just like no matter how many times you switch on that light switch, it's not going to get more bright in the room. Same thing with when you're using a GnRH agonist. It's not like if you take more of it, now you get more growth hormone, despite what people think. Regardless, God forbid, if someone has a cancer that's present that they don't know about, which is majority of the time how it goes, and they're giving themselves something that increases growth hormone, well, that's like throwing gas on the fire. So what blows my mind is that physicians have a ton of regulations on them, okay? Between American Medical Association, every state you have to be licensed, you have to have malpractice insurance, tons and tons of regulations if you're a legitimate practicing physician. Compounding pharmacies and things like that, FDA, tremendous amount of regulation on those things. Yet folks can go online and just buy a peptide. You could Google it and just buy a damn peptide from anywhere. But if you read, there's always a little box at the bottom of the website page that says not for human use. Yeah, you can take a look and see. It says not for human use, and it says that it's for, scientific study only. But people are buying these things off of peptide warehouses, injecting them willy-nilly into themselves, and there's virtually no regulation, which is what blows my mind. So I'm not saying don't use peptides. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, number one, don't outthink your common sense. Number two, do your homework. Don't just listen to some influencer on social media. And number three, your best bet is to have an actual physician who's well-versed in these things that knows you and what you're trying to accomplish so that you can do something on a very custom and individual basis. Otherwise, you can actually really hurt yourself.